What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon. So round 5 of the Rugby Championship is now over. We've got our second victor of the round, and it goes the way of the Springboks in quite a hectic match, considering it started out a little bit slow in this one. By the end, it certainly got more than chaotic. So as we do in these match report videos, we'll start off by going over the first half, some of the highlights, some of the scores and what have you, give a bit of analysis, and then we'll move on afterwards to talk about the second half. Of course, I always welcome you guys. Drop down in the comments your thoughts. If you think South Africa deserved to win, if you think some of the referees' decisions were correct, because I'm sure that'll be one of the big talking points of this game, because it is always fun to have a bit of a read through what other people thought of the game. So starting off with the first half then. Started out very slow. This was a very slow game. Took a long time for both teams to get into it. I would probably say even like 20 minutes for this game to really get going anywhere. An awful lot of penalties in this game. The referee was not allowing this game to go fast. There was a couple of handling errors along the way. We kept having scrums where the scrums just didn't even complete. We had breakfoot penalties. We had scrums collapsing, teams moving up the field, then a penalty going the other way, and we moved back down the field. So the first 20 minutes, all we've got to really talk about is penalties and things not going right. We had a couple of scores along the way. The first one coming from Boffelli, that was Mostert, going for hands in the ruck, even though the referee was literally stood next to him saying, stay away, leave the ball alone. Even if you think you're right, you've just got to listen to that referee. So that was the 3 points for them. Damien Willemse managed to equal the scores out just 2 minutes later in the 10th minute, getting their own penalty over. This one came from an offside. It was South Africa's first real attack of the game, I'd probably say, towards that 10-minute marker. The breakdown situation for South Africa, really good in terms of when they had possession on the ball. The clear-outs, really putting pressure on, recycling the ball quicker, just getting that ball out quickly, found Argentina offside. And happened quite a lot through this game, to be honest. The breakdown went on attack from South Africa was very good. But they did have a few more issues defensively when it came to some of the breakdown situations. Both teams had the chance for a few more points towards that 20-minute marker. There was a penalty missed by South Africa in the 13th minute, and Argentina missed theirs in the 17th minute. So it took 20 minutes in. We're still at 3-all into this game. And considering where the scoreboard ends up, you can see how much this game really began to ramp up later on. We had to wait 20 minutes for the first try, which looked like it actually came from Hendrikse. South Africa went on a really nice attack. They went for a big maul, managed to split away. Argentina managed to deal with it quite well. The ball gets shifted out wide, and Hendrikse dives for the line, getting himself over, and does get held up. We went back to the TMO, we checked it out, and Santiago Carreras had run just completely from offside and just dived on him and stopped him from scoring. One of those weird decisions that you see in rugby where you're just left scratching your head as to why you make these decisions. That's clearly illegal. You've clearly stopped a try, and the clear penalty that came from it was both a penalty try and a yellow card for Santiago Carreras. So you think just, teams don't like to score, but sometimes you really feel like it's just better to concede the score and have the full 15-man team to try and score back your own points rather than this desperate attempt to try and stop team. I don't know why we see it so often in rugby, but we do. There's an awful lot of these penalties that always just end up being a penalty try and a yellow card. Just let them score and go back with your own team. It's not always the worst thing to concede and keep the extra man. Argentina did close the gap up to 4 points through the boot of Boffelli again just a little bit later, about 5 minutes later on in the game, but it was around the 30-minute marker when Hendrikse managed to actually get his try. By now we're beginning to see a bit of a rolling theme that was going on in this game, that when South Africa had the ball in hand, the use of the forwards, the strength, the power, using the big boys, going through some of the set pieces, just going through the mauls, driving in, it was making ground. Pretty dominant carries through a lot of this game, especially this first half. When they had the ball in hand, they didn't really look like they were doing a great deal, but making massive ground, putting Argentina under big pressure. Advantage penalties were playing absolutely constantly, and it was these reasons that we managed to get up there. South Africa tried a couple of attempts getting it into the corner, attempting some 10-man mauls, which we really like to see. These big line-outs where everyone just gets involved. Argentina were shutting it down, but like I said, just giving away penalties in order to do it. It's not really getting anywhere. Eventually, the driving mauls did get stopped. Eventually, South Africa managed to spread it out wide. It goes to ground. There's a ruck. Hendrikse picks up the ball from the back of the ruck and just runs it over. I was really surprised to see this. He literally picked it up. He didn't even really do a dummy pass. The Argentinian guys just went to the forwards outside him and he just ran over for a real easy try. It's one of the easiest ones he'll get, but nice to see him actually get a try considering he had his other one taken away from him through an illegal action. And Damien Willemse managed to slot that one through as well. So we go 17 points to 6 up in the 30th minute. So it took a while to get the scoreboard going, but then it really begins to roll. Malcolm Marks then goes on to score his own try only 3 minutes later from a very similar situation again. The forwards just generating penalties for themselves, put them in that 5-meter channel, get themselves the driving maul. This one much better setup. Argentina is struggling to not give away these penalties, and eventually Marks just smashes through with that maul. The conversion was missed by Valemsa, but by this point we really felt like it was just going to start going the way of South Africa. They were 22 points to 6 up at this point, and Argentina really didn't look like they were getting going an awful lot by this time. So we really thought this was potentially just going to be a bit of a washover score like we got to see against New Zealand, Argentina last week. Argentina did have one big chance to potentially score a try in this one. It actually came off the back of a South African scrum. Argentina managed to win a penalty against the head in a South African scrum, kicked themselves up to the 5-meter line, really in the corner. South Africa had to react quickly and actually managed to steal the line out away from them. Scrums were a bit of an issue for both teams. Line outs more going the way of South Africa in this game. I thought they did very well at just disrupting what they could do of the Argentinian line out. So they managed to get out of that real easy, and you think that was maybe going to be the end of the half, but South Africa went back on the offensive just towards the end of the first half. We had a good 4-5 minutes of South Africa on massive attack. There were so many penalties coming from Argentina. It looked like the only way they were stopping South Africa was through these penalties. And of course, this eventually led to Bertrano's yellow card. It was going to come. Someone had to go. It was 4 penalties in a row within the 5-meter channel. Bertrano being the unfortunate one to go there. And in the 42nd minute, we have probably the first big controversial decision for me here. South Africa go for a kick to the corner. 42nd minute, go for that final score. Got the penalty, might as well go for the try. They went for the line-out. The line-out was a little bit wobbly, gets to the back man, bobbles out of the hands of Mostert. The ball drops down. It's picked up by Lou Diaga, who smashes his way over to score a really nice try. And we go back to the TMO, and the TMO decision on this was that the ball had bobbled out of his right hand, gone forwards, then gone back off his left hand, and then gone backwards. But because he didn't catch the ball himself after knocking it forwards from one hand to another, that then is a knock-on, which meant that he hadn't actually knocked the ball back, he knocked the ball forwards. Now, this is one of those sort of technical areas I'm not really a big fan of when you go through the rule books. It may well be the actual complete rule, but I really don't think the idea of knocking the ball from here to here and then it going back really influenced the end of that try. To me, I would like to see tries like that be scored. I don't class that. If you knock the ball on but manage to knock it back off your own hand, I really don't feel that should be classed as a knock-on just because you didn't manage to collect it. You did manage to then pass it backwards afterwards. I would like to maybe see that as a bit of a law change. So it was a bit of a shame to not see that try get scored. But we go in at halftime. Argentina 6, South Africa 22. So a big lead for South Africa at that halftime marker. Notes at halftime, I just said it's a slow opening 20, and the majority of the second 20 is just all South Africa on their attack. South Africa seemed better on the attacking breakdown, better at the set pieces, and better in carrying the ball, and the Argentinian discipline just letting them down, just letting South Africa get away with this game so much. Possession at half-time, 36% to Argentina, 64% to South Africa, looking extremely dominant there. Number of penalties in that first half, Argentina 11. We talk about this international standard. You want to have 10 by the end of the game. 11 in the first half, so many, and only 5 to South Africa. So you could really see that this game was going to slip away from Argentina, mainly through a lot of their own mistakes, just allowing South Africa to move up. But the South African forwards really doing a big job on this game. On to the second half then, which is far more exciting. Straight from the kickoff, just everything going on. We had a nice opening 5 minutes of this first half where both teams just threw everything at it. They were using the backs, the forwards, smashing through. We had 2 massive interceptions, one from each team, running the ball up and down the field. Really nice to see. So much more explosive. Argentina looked so much more ferocious in the second half. They obviously wanted a bit of prove a point. The defense came out. I think there were more dominant tackles in the first 10 minutes of the second half than we saw in the entirety of the first half. Pretty incredible. The South African breakdown looking very good though, especially when they've got the ball in hand. It's still a little bit shaky when it's defensively. They still get in the wrong position or hands reaching for the ball, but I do think they're doing extremely well when they have their own possession. Argentina actually got to take over the game for a bit. I'd say 50th to 60th minute, I'd probably say we're just going all Argentina. The energy really picked up. They stopped kicking the ball as much. They kept the ball in hand. They were forcing penalties. from South Africa, and it allowed them to make a really good ground at the field, allowed to put them under massive pressure. There was a couple of big opportunities for them getting towards that South African try line, but just not quite getting themselves over the line. Now, there were a couple of talking points coming around this section. One was from a ball bouncing off a referee's head. This was Argentina on attack on the South African 5-metre line. It came from the Argentinian scrum half, threw it out, and it bounced off the sort of back of the head and neck of the referee, and the ref then gave a scrum to the team. Now, this is quite an interesting rule that I don't think I've ever really seen just utilised. It seems like that if you just throw the ball at the referee, it's whoever was last in possession, it's their scrum. But actually, when you're on the offensive, throwing the ball at the referee in the middle of the park to gain an attacking scrum feels like a technique no one has quite managed to find that sort of shortcut and utilise in a game. I wouldn't be surprised if you can find teams purposely beginning to target the referee with the ball in the future just to get a really advantageous scrum. So they did manage to get a scrum, but the South African defence holding up well. In terms of just defending their own line. A lot of penalties, I'm not going to lie, but they did actually defend pretty well. Eventually, the penalty count, though, did lead to the yellow card of Willy Leroux, just being on the end of the team penalty. Again, it's just 4 or 5 penalties in your own 5-metre channel. Someone's going to go, ends up being you. Argentina, again, have some scrums on that 5-metre line of South Africa, but South Africa defence, absolutely fantastic, do manage to hold up. They are just not letting Argentina get over for that try. That is until we get towards the 65th minute, where it looks like for all certainty we get to see Kubeli go over for his try. He managed to sneak off the back of a ruck and dives for the line. Doesn't manage to get to the line, and South Africa managed to sort it out. We go back to look at it from the TMO perspective, and we get to see Kwagga Smith going round the neck of Kubeli, stopping him from getting to the try line. This results in his yellow card in the game. Now, this was an interesting one. Again, you know, a player diving for the line. He has got him round the head and neck, but there's not really anywhere else you're going to be able to grab him to stop him. Is it a tackle on the ground? If he doesn't tackle him, does he just reach out and score a try? So you've stopped a try. Really difficult refereeing in this game, but some of the calls, I'm really interested to know what people do think down in the comment section. So we got a penalty try to Argentina for that, but also Kwagga Smith getting his own yellow card. Now, one of the worrying signs here was that Damian Valemsa actually got knocked out during this, getting his head on the wrong side of a tackle. Now, this is a bit of a concern for South Africa in terms of their number 10s. Andre Pollard's gone, Elton Yantes has gone home, now Valemsa's got knocked out. We'll have to wait to see to the team announcement that comes out whether or not he'll actually be staying in the squad. There's been a bit of a thing now about head concussions and stuff, whether that's going to end up being players out for longer periods of time. I'm not sure who fills in that 10 position after that. So hopefully he's going to be okay to carry on into next week's game. So after waiting 26 minutes into the second half to actually see the first score going on, the floodgates then began to open. We got a next try coming in from Maroney on a bit of a try from nothing, really. Argentina just stuck in the middle of the field, won a lovely pass, and Maroney on a beautiful line sees him carve through the South African defensive line. He makes the way all the way up the field, beats 3 defenders, and gets himself nicely under the post. Now, we did go back and have a look on the TMO. They checked the grounding. I think the grounding to me looked absolutely fine. It was the pass for me that looked a bit more suspicious. To me, I would have said that pass was looking forward, especially if you're going to give the award for the knock-on for bobbling the ball in hands as the ball travelling forward compared to literally passing the ball forward. I think I might have gone for forward there. There was a big conversion, though, from Boffelli, so Argentina have turned it around now. 10 minutes from the end, the score, Argentina 20, South Africa 22, so extremely close at this point. They've managed to really pull it back. This is where we really got to see the energy lift from Argentina. They look much more excited. They look much more booming. The stadium was going absolutely wild, but unfortunately that penalty count eventually caught up to them. At the 70th minute, Argentina are on 16 penalties. They have slowed down in the second half in terms of penalties, but you know, it's still coming along, and eventually these penalties do allow South Africa to just seal out this game. The final try is coming in from Damien Dialende that just came after a stopped maul. It was just pick and goes, and Damien Dialende got himself over for a nice little try, and then it was finally finished off by Malcolm Marks right in that 80th minute. Really nice to see. The ball shifted wide over to Mapimpi, who might have only touched the ball once in this game. Genuinely, I was trying to keep an eye out for it. I really don't think he got the ball an awful lot in this game, but the one time he did, he seemed to make good ground round the outside of Boffelli, passed the ball back inside, and we see Marks going over, having played a full 80 minutes, still running like a madman, gets himself over for a try, and a beautiful conversion from Steyn seals out this game, as you can see, 36 points 20. So South Africa come away as the winners there. It's definitely some big talking points in terms of like the referees' decisions in this. I think on both sides, I don't think it's necessarily biased towards one way, but there was certainly a lot of big things missed. I do think the Moroni try was a forward pass. I do think maybe the Diaga try should have counted, but that might be a ruling issue, so fair enough. There was also a big dump tackle that was done by Frans Steyn that we just didn't even go and look back at. I definitely think it was a penalty, if not, potentially more. We've seen cards come out for that same tackle, so a couple of issues there. We did hear the commentators say things like World Rugby are going to need to start looking at penalty count soon. I'm really enjoying covering this tournament as a bit of a neutral. It's fun to look at, but it's definitely one of the big talking points of its entire weekend, really, especially from that New Zealand-Australia game, has been referees' decision-making, to say the least. Overall, in terms of penalties, Argentina 19, South Africa 13. In terms of scrummaging, 67% success for Argentina. Really not looking good. South Africa, 60%. Both teams had their chances in terms of being in charge of the scrummaging. They had South Africa better in the first half, Argentina better in the second half, but it was just the penalty counts letting both teams back into the game. I really think South Africa let Argentina back into the game with their own bad discipline in the second half, and those yellow cards weren't helping them anywhere. But overall, I think Argentina had the chance to score some tries and just didn't make the most of the opportunities. But of course, guys, let me know what you think down in the comment section. If you enjoyed this one, remember to leave the video a like, and to keep up to date with all the latest videos as they come out, remember to subscribe to the channel. I hope you've all enjoyed today, guys. I will see you all next time. Bye bye.